Welcome to Fouts Boxing Theory. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Jake Paul's nearly perfect fight game plan thing. Okay? Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm the guy that proved all of film study. All of the guys who do film study use my theory. They use most of my terminology. Sometimes they try to change it, like Boxing Gems tries to change some things. To be like lane of traffic or whatever. They don't want to use the line because they're dumb. They don't know anything about boxing. Nothing that I haven't taught on YouTube. But I'm the guy that proved it all, that everyone uses my system. And we're going to be talking about one of the most important things, a very, 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 very important and fundamental aspect of combat. One that Boxing Gems would never understand and will only start talking about now because it's actually really important. But the first thing that you want to think about is who is at advantage and who is at disadvantage in the fight, right? Duh, right? Everybody knows that Jake Paul was the one that's at disadvantage, but why? What if Jake Paul had the frame of Lawrence Okolie, right? We knew it was just Jake Paul, but he was like Lawrence Okolie, right? Did we assume that Jake Paul was going to be at advantage or disadvantage against Tank Davis, right? He was still an underdog, right? But we all recognize that Jake Paul had the opportunity to hit Tank Davis before Tank Davis could hit him based on reach, right? And the effect that this has on the fight is that just means that fundamentally one person will be more able to challenge on the line than the other, which means the other one is the one that is responsible for having to have an active guard to make sure that they're more safe. Because Jake Paul can be hit while he's out of range with his own punches by Anthony Joshua, while Anthony Joshua doesn't even actually have to move, right? Jake Paul has to figure out where that zone is going to be. He has to figure out where the line actually is, okay? And this is so much easier for Anthony Joshua because as soon as Jake Paul gets into range, Anthony Joshua is going to make an attack on his line, right? But Jake Paul is not going to be thinking to make an attack on Jake Paul until he gets into range. But those two places are not going to line up at the same place, right? So he has to figure out a way to, what I call, weave through the line and get on the line with his opponent safely in a way that's mostly safe. You're never really super safe, but if you have an active guard, you can make it mostly safe and mostly hard for your opponent to hit you as you step onto the line, right? By moving your head or feinting or getting control of your opponent in that beat, right? If your opponent thinks that when you step on the line, that you're gonna hit them and it's really a feint, they're gonna react to it, and then that'll open up space for another punch, right? But it'll also allow you to step onto the line. But you have to step into range before you can hit your opponent. This has a dramatic effect on the fight, and we're gonna talk about the flow of the fight and all this stuff, but Jake Paul doesn't really have any other options fighting Anthony Joshua, right? Is he just going to catch and block every punch and just come straight forward like Golovkin would and batter him down with the jab? He has to work so hard. Anthony Joshua would have to miss so many punches from so far, from such a range, right? Anyway, so not to give an excuse, right, to Jake Paul for the running and stuff, right? Because we're going to talk about it and what he should be doing instead. But notice as he gets to the front foot, he just immediately starts peeling, right? He didn't actually feint or control Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua gets to the front foot. He knows, again, because Jake Paul can't hit him from that range, he's also not really thinking about feinting and controlling space because he's not even in range, right? Now, as he goes to take a step on the back foot here, notice when they're here, if Jake Paul were to have taken a step here, he'd be in range of Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua is planted, so he has to keep circling. So one of the strategies that Jake Paul's going to have is he's never actually going to stop doing this pendulum step, right? This one turns more into a side straddle hop, right? As he continues to run and move. But he actually doesn't wind up having that much space to plant himself and get into his bladed stance and get to the position where he's normally striking from, because Anthony Joshua actually does a decent job of cutting the ring off, right? Notice where his front foot is. Look at where Jake Paul is looking. He's looking at his feet, and now his foot goes front foot, and he's going this way. And again, he's not taking a step or he's getting on the line. He's still moving. He's crossing his feet, which is, who cares? We're not going to talk about that right now because he's not really setting traps. He's not trying to fight. He's trying not to fight, right? So it doesn't really matter. But he hasn't found a place to get really bladed. But look at this. Gives him one feint, gets him to control with the lead hand, and then pushes him off the line, right? Now look at him L-step off the line and realize that he just got control of Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua didn't barrel forward off the jab right there where he feinted and then following through. He moved off, and it opened up space for Jake Paul to start controlling space and try to get planted and get bladed. So now look at him using his front foot and keeping his head on the front foot so that he can start trying to find some offense, right? So he can start trying to get some control. Doesn't find it, and he realizes immediately as soon as he starts sitting on the front foot, Anthony Joshua is going to make an attack against him. Okay, this part's extremely important because if he's not jumping and hopping around, he can't actually sit in a spot for very long before Anthony Joshua is going to lock onto him because he's really fast and big and he's got pretty good reach, right? Now again, feinting, getting good control of Anthony Joshua. Just want to point out, he feints him and Anthony Joshua brings his hand up. Okay, it's going to play a big, important part for the first opportunity of Jake Paul to make an attack. But a few things that, again, Jake Paul's not doing, right? Notice when he gets to the front foot here, he didn't throw any punches. He didn't control. He didn't feint. He didn't do anything to try to make Anthony Joshua have to weave through the line. So Anthony Joshua gets to come forward straight through the line. He doesn't have to change positions. He doesn't have to interact with anything. And Jake Paul doesn't actually have his hands up in a position in which he can interact with the punch. So everything that comes at him is just going to be a laser beam. This is going to be important at the end of the fight when he starts having to try to interact with Joshua's punches and weight transitions one for one. Okay, but coming forward, pushes him off the line. And again, he has to look for space to get his front foot planted. And look, again, penduluming around. This attack comes as he's going front foot, back foot, and he's about to make it to the front foot. Very classic timing to get attacked, right? Pivoting move. You guys feel safe right here? What if this was a 1-2? Man, why didn't he throw more 1-2s, right? Crazy. But moving around, again, there's no space for him to get planted on the line and get bladed. If he gets bladed, he'll get stuck on the line and he won't have any more of his mobility, right? But I want you to pay attention to the fact that he can't really fight when he opens up his stance, right? When he opens up his stance, he doesn't have any moves, right? He can't catch or block punches or slip or pull or do any moves, right? So he's moving around. And again, look at him looking at Joshua's feet, right? Trying to see if he's coming close. And then he gives him a feint, gets control of him, right? This allows him, again, to finally get enough space to get on the line and start making some controls, right? So attacking him out of range. And again, even though he's out of range, still getting Joshua controlled, right? Still pushing him a little bit off the line, not allowing him to continue penduluming forward. Again, as the fighter that is the fighter that's at disadvantage, right? Again, this is extremely, extremely important. You're going to have to control your opponent more often. You can't just let them walk into the range at which they can throw a punch while you're still out of range and they can hit you, right? And they can just kind of walk into that range, so you have to control them. Otherwise, they can throw a punch at you, and then you have to bridge the gap on your defensive beat and then make an attack on them, which is even more difficult, right? So, again, making sure and that's just enough, by the way, the feinting is just enough to allow him to get to a position in which he can start trying to score. Because while he was circling and moving around, we recognized that he didn't really have any traps or any ways. Now, makes a fundamental mistake right here. He gets feinted and pushed off the line because, again, he doesn't actually want to challenge and land any punches here. Anthony Joshua gets on the line. There's only so many things that can happen here, right? Anthony Joshua throws a punch. Jake Paul throws a punch, or they both do a defensive move, right? Or they both get off the line, right? There's three things. They either say, oh, he's going to throw a punch, so I'm going to get off the line right now. They say, I'm going to throw a punch, right? Or they both do a defensive move and stay on the line and hope the defensive move that they do works with the attack that their opponent made. Those are literally the only things that can happen right now. The only things. There's nothing else that can happen, no matter how you rationalize it. Oh, he's going to look for an angle. What does that mean? You got on the line and then you changed positions, right? So you did a defensive move, right? But you're going to make a move on the line right here. And it's going to be attack, defend, or exit. That's it. Those are your only options. No matter what word you give it, no matter what weird little oh, Shakur does this thing. Oh, that's a move. No, that's either exiting the line, defensive, or an attack. Which one was it? Right? And he's going to leave the line. But he leaves the line, and look at how much space he gives up. For what? He does an L step. A classic scrub move. Man, if you have no history of boxing, if you haven't watched enough boxing, you don't know how this move fails, right? You just don't know, right? It's not your fault you're an idiot. Go watch some real boxing. Stop watching today's fighters because this is who you want to emulate with the flashy blah, blah, blah. Today's fighters suck. They're not that good. Go watch the rest of history. If you want to learn about all these people talk about oppression and this and the United States and all that stuff, and you got to learn about history. Right? Otherwise, you're just talking out of your ass. But you have to know everything that's ever happened about it and how it's always evolved in order to understand what's actually going on and why this is bad. And here he is. Classic L-step move. Now he can't get bladed back on the line. He gave up all the space. It's gone. And now he has to move around. He can't fight. He can't fight. Didn't get it into positions. He lost it. Look at him running. Right? Thanks, L-step. Good job. Every coach who teaches that, you're a moron. You're so dumb. You don't have any idea what's going on in boxing. Just like you, right? Just like all these people, they don't watch boxing. They don't know, right? They've never studied it. Moving around again. There's nowhere here where he can get planted and wait for Joshua to come into range. Joshua's already cut the ring off. It's already too much space. Here he is getting on the line. Now, boom. Immediately, as soon as his front foot comes down, Jake Paul's side straddle hopping to the right to get off the line. Right? Trying to leave. Big one. Right? Now, a lot of people think that Joshua could have done more to cut the ring off and this stuff, throw more punches and chasing him, but Jake Paul's using a lot of energy to do this. This is how Muhammad Ali used to fight, right? Look at him jumping. Notice he didn't really move anywhere, and he allowed Anthony Joshua to get into range, into a position where he could do one step and throw one punch, and Jake Paul had no momentum. Back and forth right here, and look at front foot, back foot, and then he brings his back foot close, and now he's taking the big step, steals a shot for free. Again, you can't stop using your active guard. You have to keep moving if you're the guy that's at disadvantage because he can hit you while you're out of range, right? And that was like a great example. Now again, found enough space, feinted him there. Joshua brings his hand up, right? Jumps on the line, and again, last time he feinted him, Joshua brought his hand up, he brings his hand up, Jake Paul throws a body shot, beautiful shot, excellent timing. However, Joshua was already preempting his block. He was already ready for a possible right hand, and he already got feinted into it, so he's already going to be thinking about what he's going to be doing next. So Anthony Joshua braces for the headshot here, and he's already coming back with a shot here, countering. Now, Jake Paul, he's not a good striker. Okay, we're going to talk about this in depth as we go through the fight. It's really, really important when we talk about it because he can only throw one or two punches and do one or two weight transitions before he falls off balance. That's how bad he is with his weight. Right? Notice Anthony Joshua recovers from throwing punches. People call it balance, right? He's a better striker, right? He's more relaxed. He can exert himself and get his energy into a shot, more energy, even though it may not look like he's trying as hard as Jake Paul. That's the goddamn magic. And he's able to reset so much better that he can continue chaining his punches better. Even in this moment, he gets pushed off the line, makes a defensive beat of a block, and then throws a counter. Now, Jake Paul prices himself into this move. He can't really do very many moves because he does the jab to the body to get into range. He's already compromising his structure from way out here, right? Look at how much space he has to cover, right? That big, huge pendulum step. This is just to get into range, so he has to stretch out his kinetic chain. Then he's already stretching it out to throw a body shot. His body mechanics are bad. How's he going to throw another shot? Could he throw a shot and could he throw a left hook to the head and move his head and get his head off the line? No, because his body mechanics are too stressed. He's already worked too hard to do this move off of his active guard to bridge the amount of distance that he had because he's at such disadvantage. But he wants to get more value out of getting on the line, so he does throw an extra punch. What's he going to do otherwise? Grab and hold? So he takes it, he winds up getting hit, he breaks some of the rules after throwing that shot, right? If we reorganize what he did here, right? And we go, okay, if he had organized his fight plan here, And instead of throwing this shot and then staying on the line, he threw this shot, and then instead of with the last bit of energy and technique that he has left before he falls off balance, he got off the line instead, he would have gotten a free punch right here. Right? He got good control of Joshua, pushed him off the line, threw a punch, and then if instead of throwing this punch, boom, he got off the line and moved his head, he wouldn't have to pay for it. Right? Now, this is really, really, really important, okay? As the fighter that's at advantage, right? If you never actually make a counterattack on your opponent and you just allow them to throw punches at you, with wild abandon, Jake Paul would then know he could just run around, jump on the line, throw a punch, and then move. He'd know that he could just do that forever. So Joshua has to find a way to limit the kinds of attacks that Jake Paul can throw at him by countering them. Whether they land or not, it doesn't matter. You have to make the attempt. Your opponent doesn't know, right? He doesn't know how good you are at that punch. He doesn't know if it's going to land next time. You're going to scare the shit out of him just by flexing a counter at him, right? You're going to change, right? How many more times in this entire fight does Jake Paul jump on the line and throw a 2-3? None. Not one more time. And this is one of the big, huge differences between a guy who's an amateur, right? We have that very, very amateur thing, right? The amateur guy thinks he's going to get in there with a pro, and the pros are always real calm and real, relaxed and real, chill, right? They're like, oh, this is always going to go rounds. We're going to do 12 rounds. Yeah, it's a long fight. Yeah. And the young amateur guy always thinks that they're just going to get in there and Roy Jones the guy. I'm going to use more energy. I'm just going to move. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you're going to do all that shit, and then you're going to get tired. And after a few rounds, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm just not ready for the pro style yet. And it's no. You didn't organize your fight strategy well enough to do that. All that jumping around, all that Ali stuff where you're on your toes that whole time, that's why Ali would wind up doing the rope-a-dope. Because he didn't organize his fight plan correctly. He didn't use energy in the right places. He wasted energy in places. And he would do bad moves that would give up too much space in the ring and cost him to run and jump more often while his opponent is chilling. Anthony Joshua was chilling in front of him. And this guy is literally jumping rope in front of him. He has to keep moving at pace of jumping rope. Now, decent little trap as we keep going, again, circling, right? If there's nothing to discourage him, right, as he moves this way, boom, control, boom. Doesn't matter that he misses, right? Bad post-punch defense. Did get a lot of control over Joshua, right? But if he can just keep moving and doing this, there's a winnable fight plan for him, right? Now, at some point, Joshua has to throw some punches if Jake Paul is just going to move around, and then as soon as he gets into range, he's just going to jump on the line and exert, which doesn't work for the whole fight. We're going to talk about that. But while he's moving around, you have to be able to move around and bait punches, and when they come and your opponent's off balance like that, you have to be able to make them counter, or you have to be able to make them pay with counters. And Jake Paul doesn't do any of that. Again, that's another one of those problems with the way that he learns to circle and step around, is that he doesn't have any traps because he doesn't line up any of his body mechanics with any of the traps that he could possibly make. That's why everything that he's doing is so bad. Now, real quick, I already have an entire combat system and over 100 drills posted to teach you how to learn how to do the stuff that I'm criticizing Jake Paul of not being able to do, okay? It's a very, very, very simple system. There's over 100 drills online. It's $20 to sign up, $20 a month, okay? All the film studies that I do, the full-length film studies, they wind up, I post them in there. There's a community of like 65 plus people, sometimes up to almost 80 people that cycle in and out. A lot of them posting content, a lot of people who are beginners for you to learn at, a lot of people who are really strong and fit. There's dozens and dozens of videos in there already, breakdowns and ways to teach people who are already doing the drills for you to follow along. So you can learn while they're learning and make the same mistakes that they're making while they make them, and you can learn from their mistakes. And it's a great way to learn the Fouts boxing combat system. If you don't want to join the academy, you can buy the whole system. It's $300. It has also my punching power technique drills. I'm the first coach in history to figure out exactly how punching power works, and the way that you're supposed to incorporate your entire body to learn how to to make a strike, and what to do with all of them. Right? I'm the first coach in history to figure it all out. Everyone who's out there is just trying to rip off my system and bastardizing it and ruining it because they don't understand that there are certain things that you just can't compromise in order to make it to the pro level, right? And if Jake Paul just was a little bit better of a striker and didn't fall off balance so much, he also could have been able to beat Anthony Joshua here, right? That's another one of those things that would have been able to bridge the gap, right, between what he was doing and what he'd be capable of doing. But again, he can't actually challenge Anthony Joshua on the line that much, right? So he has to move, but he doesn't want to have his hands up and catch and block punches and wait for Joshua to throw something at him before he moves. He wants to move because his hands are down. He has to move before, because you can't just be faster than your opponent every single time. You can't always predict. Eventually, they're just going to throw the punch where your head's going too. They're going to predict that you're going to move your head, and they're going to punch where your head usually goes, and they're going to get you. Now, again, Joshua being allowed to get to the front foot because there's not a leash, right? I call it a leash. When you get to the front foot, you just stick out a lead hand probe, and then you just get the hell off the line. It doesn't matter what your opponent does. You just stick it in front of his face, and you're like, hey, deal with this. Maybe I'm trying to hit you. Maybe I'm not. It doesn't matter. But every time you get your weight to the front foot or to one side, you have the opportunity to do that and control your opponent. And when you don't, it just allows your opponent to throw punches and come at you. Now, when he's moving to this position, right, the jab comes, he should be able to have a trap here. There's drills here that I have in my Discord to teach you how to make traps out of this position so that when your opponent lunges at you while you're circling and stepping around them, you have traps and ways to execute them with power and with precision and with combinations and chain them together after, right? So that when your opponent makes a huge fundamental mistake like that, while you're circling and stepping around, you can still interact with them. Again, the reason that Shakur Stevenson can't do this, that's why I say he's a shitty fighter. Devin Haney can't do this. That's why he's a shitty fighter. These are basic traps. These are common. They're present in every single fight, multiple times per round. And if Jake Paul is using this strategy, found a place to get planted, right? Finally got enough space. Now, sees the jab coming. Why did he get under the jab like this? He could have done anything, right? He's been dragging Anthony Joshua around, and now he's got Anthony Joshua making very, very, very obvious lunging attacks on his line. Front foot control, pendulum, here he comes. If it wasn't so obvious, Jake Paul wouldn't have been able to avoid the attack. So why didn't he throw a right hand over the top? Why didn't he pull counter this instead of coming in here and trying to wrestle? Why? We see that he could have done it. He should have been able to do it. He's a bad fighter. That's why. He doesn't practice the move. He doesn't know how to step around and circle and make traps because he doesn't practice them. We fight how we train. If you want to learn how to practice them, again, check out my Discord. Not only will I show you all the patterns for the movement, for how to do them, but I will teach you how to make them better by doing your body mechanics better as you send in the drills. Again, it's all in the Discord. It's all very, very easy and simple to learn. If Jake Paul wanted to beat Anthony Joshua, he would need one camp with me. One. Just one. Okay? Now I want to talk about this a little bit here. Wraps his arms around him. You're never, ever, ever allowed to put your arm around your waist. Look at this useless referee. Absolutely useless, right? What is he watching right now? What is he seeing? Is he not seeing that? Holding, right? Is he not seeing him try to wrestle him? Right? Now look, this wrestling right here. Do you know how common it is for this kind of stuff when some guy goes down for somebody to fall on somebody's knee and tear a ligament? Fall on their ankle? Do you know how common this is? This is a massive danger. People like Devin Haney getting away with being bigger and stronger and wrestling guys and shoving them around, and it can't just be not legal because it's not legal and it makes the sport not the sport. But it's dangerous, okay? Anthony Joshua is going to go down later, and he's actually going to go down on top of Jake Paul, and I think it's actually the only thing that saved his knee. But feints him right there, pushes him off the line, right? Opens up space for him to get planted, right? Opened up space for him to get his left leg onto the line in a place where he could actually maybe do something. Now again, look at how bad this stuff is, right? Look at how bad his technique is. But look at how easy it is for him to get control of Anthony Joshua. Right? He's threatening him, right? If only he could do it with his rear hand first, right? Feint, right? Got him to throw a jab. He knew that was coming. How come he didn't do this and do a pull counter? Boom. Get under the jab and come up with the right hand right now. Why not? Why didn't he do the move? If he knew the jab was coming, why didn't he throw a right hand over the top? He's doing a decent job circling. He's just missing all his traps. Here's a good trap. Feint. Got him to interact. Now you come back over the top. right? If you knew he was going to interact with you, you get here, and then instead you just go right hand right over the top of that sucker. Boom! Fight's over. He did it to Tyron Woodley, right? This is a common trap. How common is the jab? It's the most common punch in boxing. Why aren't all the traps for the jab common too? Because your coach sucks. Moving around, again, getting good control of him, feinting him. Grabbing, holding. Check this out, guys. I don't know if you guys see this, but look at him, grabbing his leg. If Anthony Joshua tries to punch right now and uses his feet, he's going to fall. Why is the referee not telling Jake Paul not to grab his legs? In what goddamn world are you ever on the mitts with your coach and then you grab his goddamn legs? When does that happen? When does he tell you that? This is wrestling. He's about to tackle him. Thanks a fucking lot, Andre Ward, for goddamn ruining the sport. Ruining it. And never coming out and saying, well, it's just because I was a limited fighter and it was because I was a scared ass pussy, that's why. Right? And goddamn you, HBO, for praising him, hoping that he was going to be the next Mayweather. Because for some reason, that's what you guys thought Mayweather was doing. Oh, great plus or minus. Wow. Do you guys know that Kovalev had to fight Andre Ward in the second fight for free? That was the only way that he could get Andre Ward back in the ring with him, is he fought him for fucking free. And then Andre Ward refused all the drug testing, obviously did steroids. You see him running around his camp, flexing his muscles, screaming, off his roid rage. Literally, he's the most calm, collected guy on camera. He's always so cool. He's always so chill. He's always got some contemplative thought. And then he's going psycho in his training for the fight for this because he's on fucking roids. And he refused the VADA testing. Refused it. And again, there was no money for the rematch because nobody wanted to watch Andre Ward fight because he fights like shit. He fights like this, and it's illegal. It's illegal. Okay? And then holding him. Now, Anthony Joshua should not be grabbing him here. He should be trying to make his own space to punch. You stupid fucking idiot. You big dumb retard. Why are you not trying to get free your arms and beat this little man up? Anyway, I also, by the way, think that Jake Paul would have smashed Tank Davis. I think he would have smashed him. And I was looking forward to that fight so bad. I was going to put so much money on Jake Paul. I'm not even kidding. Even though I put money on this fight and I still lost. I bet on the under. Yeah, I ruined my parlays. And then I actually made an under bet as well. Again, moving around, circling, gets on the line, decides to challenge. When he challenges him on the line, he's going to get the reaction, right? Boom, feints him, gets the reaction. Why didn't he counter? He knows. It's predictable. But we see it's also opening up space. It's doing so many things, whether he counters him or not. It's part of the process of fighting a guy who's bigger than you. You will never escape it. If you try to learn how to fight and you can't do this stuff, you will lose. Right? Or you can't fight guys who are bigger than you, right? Look at all the extra energy that Jake Paul has to use minute by minute, moving around. Look at what good control he got. Boom, boom. And then post-punch defense. Look, literally doesn't even matter what you do as long as you get your head out of the goddamn way. You could throw punches at your opponent as long as you move your head after. Holy shit, what a revolutionary concept. Move your goddamn head after you punch. Wow, it works against professional fighters, even if you're just a YouTube. Wow. Can you believe that, guys? Can you believe that, just like what I've been saying all these years? Absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you're not allowed to hold and grab, what's going to happen? He missed his grab. He missed it. Anthony Joshua controlled. Pendulum stepped off the line an equal opposite distance away from him, right? And then, again, finds a punch, just like what should happen in boxing, right? You're not allowed to grab. You're not allowed to hold. You're not allowed to spoil the fight, right? But also, you know what's so crazy about this? This is how fucking stupid people are. This is how stupid, right? Do you have any idea how good this winds up being if he doesn't get hit here, right? But all this extra punches that he's throwing, that's so good. That was the only time that Anthony Joshua has exerted any energy in the entire first round. He's fresh, guys. He's fresh. And look at how worn and tired. Look at how worn and tired Jake Paul is already. And again, all the amateurs think that they're going to get in the ring with the pro. And they're going to do this. I'm just going to exert more energy. I'm just going to move around. Nobody will ever be able to catch me. I'll be the Mayweather. I'll tag. You're it. Tag. You're it. Ha 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 ha. Tom and Jerry bullshit doesn't work. It doesn't work. We're going to see a little bit if it works, actually, right? Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. It's going to be a banger. They're nearly equal in physicalness, physical strength and stuff. Teo is stronger and faster than Shakur, in my opinion. I think that it's going to be a little bit mitigated because the style of fighting that Shakur wants is like he wants to create enough space, challenge on the line, right? Just like Jake Paul does, but he's much better at it, resetting, much smaller L-step, even though L-step's bad, right? But he gets back to the line where he can challenge much quicker than most people, right? But if he can't catch and block punches, if he just gets pushed off the line every time Teo does something, right? There's only 3 things you can do when you get on the line. You can make an attack, you can make it a defensive move, or you can get off. That's it. Right? Oh, no. You can just get punched in the face, too. But we'll see how often Shakur feels comfortable throwing a punch at Teofimo Lopez, right? Also, if Teofimo Lopez can be sharp enough from his stance and not have to be jumping around to land punches, that might make it a little bit more difficult for him. But anyway. Jake Paul, again, moving around. 1, 2. Bad post-punch defense here. Woo! Still gets out of the way of the punch. Still got to throw punches at his opponent. Followed a couple of basic rules while circling. Guts on the line. His head's on one side. Throws the right hand. His head moves to the other side. Now his head moves back to the other side, and his head wasn't in the zone where he attacked him long enough for his opponent to get planted and make a strike into that zone. Boom. A little bit of defensive responsibility. He's almost Roy Jonesing him right now. Right? That's like how crazy close this fight plan was to being successful. All the things that he does in between are bad for him. He's not making Anthony Joshua think in between those sequences. He's not making him work. He's not feinting. He's not controlling him with a leash. He's just running around, jumping around, using too much energy. Right? Now, real quick again, Teofimo Lopez said you got to start the fight early. Right? If Teofimo Lopez starts the fight early and starts the pressure early, right? And Shakur has to move and rest, because Shakur Stevenson always has a rest phase. It's not always that like he fought Zepeda like he had to stand in front of him. No, you can't just run and pendulum away. We saw what happened to Jake Paul at the end of this fight, right? But real quick, this sequence, running, pendulum, back foot. Look at him, front foot, back foot, and the punch is coming. If he knew how to pull counter from here and transition his weight down and change, I don't say like change levels, but coil and get down here, right? He could counter this very obvious and off-balance shot from Anthony Joshua. A shot that didn't hit him. A shot that if he could make any decision he could, if he could choose anything from here, why wouldn't he choose to counter? To get out of the way of that zone? Look at just a shoulder roll right here would have been good enough. And then come back with the shot. Why didn't he do it? Because he doesn't train it. He doesn't have drills like in the Fouts Boxing Academy. Right? I have drills for these positions. I have drills for these moves. You'll beat guys who make these mistakes against you if you use my system. It's there. Okay? This is a basic move. Wow, the guy threw a right hand at me? Wow, isn't the right hand like a really common punch? I don't know. Let me count how many hands he has. He's got the left hand, the right hand. Did we say the left hand already? But there's no counter here. He's running, and he gets his opponent to throw a punch at him, and he doesn't have a way to make him pay for it. One simple adjustment right here. If he could have found a way to make Anthony Joshua pay for throwing punches at him when he's not looking to throw punches at him, he could have mitigated some of the opportunities that Anthony Joshua would feel comfortable throwing punches at him. How many more 2-3s have we seen from Jake Paul since that first one? None. Right. Getting planted on the line. Boom. Sees the jab coming. Oh! Pivot on the front foot. Now, real quick. He decides to challenge him on the line. He's not pendulum running away. He's going to interact with him, right? It's a little bit, right? Kind of. Sees the jab coming. If you see the right hand coming, and you know it's coming, where's it going, guys? Oh, I think he's going to punch me in the head, right? So where the fuck do you block? Oh, you're going to block to your head, right? Or you're going to pull away from where your head was, right? But if you know it's coming, you can choose how you interact with it. It's not flow state. Anyone who thinks fighting is flow state is not good enough at fighting. They've never competed at a high enough level and beaten somebody at a high enough level. Okay? It's all decision making. And here he makes a bad decision. But look at all the drag. Okay, Fouts boxing term, drag. Okay, look at all the drag on Anthony Joshua's punch right now. Isn't this an excellent time to counter him? Absolutely excellent, while Jake Paul is still moving his feet away rather than using his feet to punch. Right? Again, these small differences here, you guys, these small differences in only an 8-round fight, Jake Paul could have won this fight. This is a winnable fight for him. Again, throws a punch, gets control of him. Anthony Joshua is trying to pendulum and get into range, right? He has to constantly be moving his feet. He's not getting to get planted like he normally does, right? There's stress on him, right? It's not easy. And he's getting Roy Jones right now by a bunch of bullshit. Real quick, the jab comes out, countered him. Why didn't he throw a 1-2? Why didn't he throw a right hand over the top instead of the jab? He saw the punch coming, right? He's in the position, right? He's just consistently making the wrong decision, doing the wrong move, right? Found space, front foot, back foot, looking to challenge, jab, boom, gets under the shot. Could he have thrown a left hook when he did this? Could he have simply just adjusted the way that he defended this punch by adding a punch to his defensive movement? Or coming up with a punch after? But instead he wants to wrestle and grab and put his arms around his opponent, and then look at him, starting to push and wrestle him, right? Ooh, fake boxing. Holding and hitting now. He's holding Anthony Joshua's body. I know his arm is getting underhooked. Anthony Joshua is doing what he's supposed to do when his opponent puts his arm there, right? But that's Jake Paul doing, and then he's hitting. That's not legal, right? Anthony Joshua should be hitting. There you go. Looked like he was going to, but look at a little bit of wrestling with the arms. Boom. Jake Paul put himself in this position, and right now, he's free to be hit to the body. Anthony Joshua should be pummeling the arms, right? Getting rid of the underhooks so he can free up his arms and punch him, right? If they're going to be here, and this is the position they're going to be in, let them wrestle. The guy who's worse at wrestling will realize he's worse at wrestling and wrestle less. Or the guy who's smaller and weaker. This is not a winning strategy for him against someone who's bigger than him. It's not sustainable. Okay? That's why you cannot rely on this. Because as soon as you ever fight someone where you're at disadvantage, you're going to lose because your strategy sucks. Jake Paul's strategy, this is a great strategy against Tyron Woodley, right? Tyron Woodley is not big enough to make him use as much energy as he has to use because he doesn't have to get off the line every time Tyron Woodley gets into range, right? He can hit Tyron Woodley when Tyron Woodley's not in range. So this strategy is so much more effective because the guy's just a little bit shorter than him, right? What a simple difference, right? The whole strategy fails now. Almost, right? Almost. He's kind of in this fight, right? What the hell am I showing that clip for? Who cares? Saw the shot coming. Pull counter? Did he have a defensive move after? No. How basic is it to have that? It's basic. Winnable fight, right? 2. Uh-oh, did he throw 3? He did throw 3, didn't he? Oof, almost paid for it. But again, he's in this fight, right? Look at how he's falling off balance, trying to, I think he's maybe just controlling with it, right? But again, he throws his 1-2, and he's already exerted. He's lost his base. He has to reset, and he's too slow, right? Whoosh. Uh-oh, grabbing his leg again. Why is the referee not saying anything? Now, another thing that happened in this fight, because Jake Paul would duck really, really far below the waist and get really low, he would also try to use Anthony Joshua to pull himself up and stand up. Use Anthony Joshua's weight to help him get up because he doesn't want to do a squat. Right? And Anthony Joshua does not take too kindly to that. Now, this is what should happen. Right? See them a little bit wrestling, right? Anthony Joshua trying to pull his arms free. This is what should happen. The referee should not be getting involved. If he wants to clinch and initiate inside fighting, the referee should not have a say-so. Sees the punch coming? Ooh. again, eventually, your opponent's going to throw the punch where you're going. You're going to do the move too many times. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter that much if you duck below the waist, because eventually if you do the thing too many times, your opponent's going to figure out what you're doing and they're going to hit you anyway. Right? So Anthony Joshua hits him here and he kind of buckles. Look at him. Grabbing, and he's almost going down. Now, should this be considered a knockdown? Because Anthony Joshua is the one holding him up. That's what it looks like. If the ropes ever hold you up, and they're the only thing responsible for holding you up, it's a knockdown. The only thing holding him up right now is Anthony Joshua. His own legs are not holding him up. Right? He's holding onto his waist so he doesn't go down. Right? Nobody else seeing that? Are you guys crazy? Trap? Pivot on the front foot. Pivot on the front foot. Nice move, genius. It's a fucking great move. Got him. Uh-oh. Immediately starts holding. Grabbing. Boom. Gets hit. He throws his own shot. Grabs the body. But look it. Still wrestling. Okay? Very, very, very important. You have to let them work out. You can't just let the referee break them. Anthony Joshua is forcing Jake Paul to use a tremendous amount of energy throughout the course of this fight. It's not fair that he's allowed to grab and hold and rest and breathe, and the referee is going to let him get a break there. That's not fair. So make him work. He wants to wrestle? Make him wrestle. Right? Joshua not wrestling very well, right? Not getting the underhooks, not getting the overhook to free his arm, right? Not finding the places to punch yet, right? Still grabbing here instead of finding space. Found a punch there. Cool. Look at Jake Paul looking at the ref to break them. Get out of there, ref. Boom. Hit him, right? Good. Hit him again, right? There's only going to be space for like one punch in between, and then they're going to grab again. That's just what happens. And then you let them work out and someone gets hit. Eventually, someone's going to keep losing the inside fighting and lose the fight, or stop inside fighting. But you can't break them. You have to let them suck at it. Because one of the guys is going to be better at it. Boop. And again, don't break them, ref. Let Anthony Joshua keep separating him. Take that arm, pummel it inside, break the guy, and then hit him. Referee, you idiot. You don't deserve a job. Get out of here, you bum. But the fight probably would have ended right there if the referee didn't end them. It didn't break them. Counter. Look at all the drag on that punch. Look at how well he was able to feint and get Anthony Joshua out of position. Boom. Boom. Sees the shot coming. He sees it coming a mile away. Look at him. Oh, gets out of the way. Counter, 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 counter. But he sucks. He's not a good fighter. He can only do 1 or 2 weight transitions before he falls so far off balance that he can't chain anything together. Right? This is why he holds. This is why he holds. And Anthony Joshua is going to recover from that punch so much faster, even though we see there's a big, huge hole. Grabbing his legs again. What the F? What the F, ref? What? Hits him. Legal. Legal. But what's going on there? Ref, why are you not telling him to stop grabbing his legs? In what goddamn world? Absolutely insane. Boop. Now, this part is so funny. This is so funny, okay? If you guys have seen Floyd Schofield knockout of Tevin Farmer, I created the game plan for that fight. That was me, okay? Tevin Farmer has the habit of feinting with his face. He just comes in with his hands down. He jumps on the line and expects what he does to scare you, right? You know, like that. But if you freak out on accident and you just throw a punch when your opponent does that, boop, you're going to hit him. And he knocks him out because he jumps on the line with exactly what I said to do. Oh, as soon as he feints, doesn't matter what he does. Just jump on the line with your own 1-2 and throw it as fast as you can. Boop, boop. And he knocks him out. Again, you can't check the line with your face. And this is really, really funny. Guys like Sergio Mora, right? Guy who also follows my channel, uses a lot of my terminology, steals a lot of my stuff, never gives me credit. He calls them foot feints or whatever. You got to use foot feints. It's the same thing. These people foot feint with their hand down, and you check the line like that. Stupid idiot. It's not how feinting works. And there's Jake Paul getting cracked for it, right? Boom, boom, cracked him. Crossed the line, threw a 2, got off the line. Why couldn't he do this more often, guys? Because he used so much energy running around and jumping and doing stuff that's not boxing and not controlling his opponent and not feinting, grabbing, arm around the leg again, right? And again, should not be a knockdown? The only thing holding him up, right? But again, you can't wrestle a guy. These tactics, right? These tactics don't work when you fight someone who's bigger than you. Again, Devin Haney's a big guy. He keeps getting away with all that stuff because he's fighting littler guys who are not as strong and physically imposing. Right? And it's just not going to work when he fights someone who's got an advantage against him, when he's the guy that's at disadvantage. And Devin Haney is a guy that's literally always fought as the advantaged fighter. Gets on the line, throws the 2, man. Jake Paul has this terrible problem of not looking at his target. He has no idea what he's looking at. There's no snap on it. There's just so many things wrong with his strike. He just labors himself so much. But again, winnable fight, just following the rules, right? Cross the line, we throw the punch, get your head off the line, right? Your head starts on one side, you throw the punch, it's on the other side. You're mostly safe, right? Mostly safe. Uh-oh. Bad reset there. Again, he doesn't really know how to peel and get up the line. Trap time. Psh. Counter. Why didn't he do that more often? Lands a punch, immediately grabs the legs. Now, I'm also going to criticize Brian Norman Sr. Brian Norman Sr., you're a fucking idiot. You let your son go into the most important fight of his life not knowing how to wrestle or combat it, but also not calling it out from the ref round by round. Hey, ref, he's grabbing my son's legs. What the hell is up with that? What did you even say to the ref? What did you do to defend your fighter against those fouls? Right? What is the ref doing here? Right? Is he just going to let Jake Paul pick him up and then throw him, trip him, tear his ACL? Just absolutely ridiculous. Luckily for Anthony Joshua, he's so much stronger that when Jake Paul tries to foul him, he can just outmuscle him easily. Again, what a joke, right? Gets under the shot. He saw it coming a mile away. Why didn't he do a better move? Gets under the shot, grabs the body, instead of throwing a real punch or a real counter. Force him to wrestle out of it, right? Force him to wrestle out of it. Don't let them just tie up. Don't just let him get out of it for free, right? Look, he looks at the referee, starts creating space. Jake Paul lands a punch, right? Make him work out. Don't break. Look at Jake Paul, or Anthony Joshua finally creating some space. Found some space to punch. Look at him run. Make him work. Why let the referee do that for free? Look at how laboring that was. Make him work. The wrestling will fix itself, guys. If you guys think it's so much a part of boxing, let him wrestle. Okay? Can't check the line with your face, guys. Feints him again. Boom. Gets hit in the face. Stupid feint. What a stupid feint. Whoosh. Ducks. And now, look at how good this sequence was for Jake Paul. Look at how good this was. Wasn't this actually so much better, making him miss this shot, than just throwing a punch before and then spoiling? Making Anthony Joshua whiff a big, huge punch? Why doesn't he come up with a counter? Why doesn't he come up with a left hook right now? Why doesn't he come up with a combination? Look at all the drag on Anthony Joshua's punch. Look at how long it took him to reset right there. Almost, right? Falls down on his own. Grabbing, create some space. Let him wrestle, ref. Let him wrestle. He wants to wrestle. Boom. Make him, right? Boom. Let him wrestle. They'll figure it out. Stay out of it, ref. Tell him not to grab the waist. Tell him not to grab his goddamn legs. Ooh. Uh-oh. Got wrestled a little bit right there. Now, when you throw a punch and then you control your opponent with your hand after, you know, that really, really, really common move where you take your arm. Look at what it looks like when the guy's bigger than you. Look at what he does with him. He literally just threw him on the ground. This was all Anthony Joshua, but look at his leg. Lands on top of him too. Oh, all on accident, right? All on accident, right? Look at how easy it is for the big guy to make it look like an accident. And he just kneed him in the stomach. He put all his weight on him right there. He sat down on top. Come on, you guys. And you guys are going to try to tell me that shit that Devin Haney's doing? When you wrestle with your nephew who's smaller than you, you could toss him around. You can lean on him. You could push him anywhere you want. And your aunt doesn't know anything about it. She can't even tell you're fucking with him. Right? He's treating him like his little nephew right now. Right? Absolutely wild. Right? Uncle Devin Haney, right? Uncle Debo. Post-punch defense, trying to grab. Went down on his own, right? Should that not be a knockdown? Now look at this, you guys. Look at this. He's grabbing his body, trying not to go down, right? Eating some punches. Maybe not legal because his knees are on the ground. But he's trying to hold himself and drag his weight on Anthony Joshua. He's dragging him down, right? Look at him. Dragging him down. Fuck yeah, I hit him. Hit him. That's what happens. It doesn't work against someone who's bigger than you because they see and they feel what you're doing, and their response doesn't have to be, oh, I guess I should just let him do this because I can feel that he can manhandle me, and I can't afford to use the energy wrestling with someone bigger than me because wrestling's not allowed in boxing. Where's the counters, bruh? Feint? Pushed him off the line? Look at how effective that was. Look at how much space he created. Why isn't he feinting more? Absolutely retarded. Whoever's unofficial scorecard that is, you're a retard. Anthony Joshua is the ring general because he literally goes wherever he wants to go. And you might think that Jake Paul is the ring general. Oh, what ring generalship he has. Oh, wow, look at that footwork. Wow. Jake Paul only gets to go where Anthony Joshua isn't going. That's it. Blocked, but looks like it still gets him, actually. They still hit each other. But again, look at him. Pendulum finds a trap. What's one of the most common moves that Anthony Joshua throws on first contact? It's a jab. But he doesn't do it this time. He knows that Jake Paul's looking to hit him with this shot, right? So he's trying to brace for it. It's not a good block. It's a bad block. Still a good counter. Now, in my pre-fight breakdown, I said this punch was going to wind up haunting him. Jake Paul, if you would have hit me up before this fight, I guarantee you, I motherfucking guarantee you, you would have knocked Anthony Joshua out. The fact that you were able to land and line these shots up without me helping you at all, just me being able to improve your punching power, and I would be able to do it dramatically with you in 1 month, you would have knocked him out. For sure. For sure, Jake Paul. I guarantee it. But landing those shots nearly at will because Jake Paul, or because Anthony Joshua, has to exploit his position and figure out when he's allowed to jump on the line with him. Now look, his knees are on the ground. Look at him trying to grab onto his waist and stand up. And he's using Anthony Joshua. So look at Anthony Joshua pushing his head down because he's using his body, using his leg to stand up. So look at him pushing him down because he's using his weight to help lift him up. And he's too tired because his fight plan of run was not actually good. Just like all the amateur beginners think that they're just going to get in there, use more energy, hop around. Whew, got him again. Look at that. Got him again. And again, why isn't he following it up? Because he has to reset. Boom. Got him. Look at how winnable this fight was. He created space, caught him with another shot. Uh-oh, bad post-punch defense. Ooh. But look at how much different these sequences go if he just continues fighting. He even landed a good shot right there. But then again, he's not a good enough striker to know how to chain his powerful strikes together. They all throw him off balance. Again, Fouts Boxing Academy. I'll fix that for you. Okay? But this was a winnable fight. Jake Paul just needed to be a little bit better. But again, there's levels in boxing. And this is one of the levels that Anthony Joshua is far superior than Jake Paul. What happens when you miss, right? What happens when you miss? You're not allowed to grab. You're not allowed to hold. You're supposed to take those punches. Use your defense. Gets hit. Again, he's going down, grabbing his legs. Not legal. Look at him trying to pick himself up, using Anthony Joshua's body and using Anthony Joshua's weight and using Anthony Joshua's energy, right? So he's pushing him off. Again, not letting him cheat and foul. And it doesn't even look that egregious. I mean, it's a little bit. But because he's so out of his league in strength, right? Now, again, I just want you guys to think about this. Think about how crazy this is, right? This fight is not as egregious as Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. Jake Paul would have manhandled Tank Davis. Manhandled him. And would have been able to land those punches on the outside too. Because Tank Davis is going to have to, he would have had to work so hard getting on the inside. Anyway, just absolutely crazy, right? But again, good strategy. Starting to realize, oh, go to the body instead, gets off the line, winnable fight. That's a repeatable pattern. Why not more of those? Gets him to do a move, right? Anthony Joshua was starting to be wary of that right hand. Blocking it here. Uh-oh. He let go of the block. Got hit. Countered. Where's the post-punch defense? Why didn't he get off the line after he threw the shot? Again, he has to overexert himself to throw a hard shot. Now, I talked about this in the pre-fight because he's not a good enough striker. And I knew he was actually going to land against Anthony Joshua, and it was just not going to have the impact that people thought it would. You know, he's just not that good of a striker. He's not able to hit him. He threw the shot, and then Anthony Joshua was like, wow, this is really slow. I'm not even going to block it. And counters. Right? That's not exactly how he got hit. But Jake Paul should have been able to hurt him if he was a good striker. If he was pound for pound actually good for his weight. Right? He's average. Average. Now, little adjustment from Anthony Joshua here, right? He sees that he's challenging him on the line, feints him, and he starts stepping around and circling instead of challenging him on the line because he doesn't want to risk getting hit with that overhand right and having it disrupt him, right? So he's trying to bait him into doing it and fight him at a different angle so he doesn't have that punch available to him. Look at how well it worked right there. Now, feint, ready for the right hand, right? Trying to get coiled. Is he going to throw it? He usually does at the beginning of the round, right? But he's tired. He's just got feinted a bunch. Didn't throw the rear hand, gets feinted here, not throwing the rear hand, and Anthony Joshua now knows, oh, no rear hand? You're not even going to throw it this time. Boom. He knows now. He knows Jake Paul doesn't want to check the line with his face as deeply as he has been. He's not throwing the rear hand, which was what was discouraging the jabs and stuff that was coming before. Jake and Anthony Joshua is easily able to feint and suss out all the actual attacks that Jake Paul has in his arsenal because he's not allowed to hold and grab and this and that, and it's not working. He's getting too tired. And now if we were at round one and he's not allowed to hold and this and that, this is where we are, right? Except that he's used a lot of energy jumping around doing nothing while Anthony Joshua has done almost nothing, right? Hasn't had to work at all. Again, gets him in the position. Is he going to duck? Is he going to cheat? Is he going to grab? Is he going to diss? No. But he tries to get low and he tries to go one beat for one beat, right? But he's already tired. He can't just see the punch coming or predict the move and move his head and be fine now. He's not moving as fast as he was in the beginning of the fight because he's been ollieing around. So when this shot comes, he's ducking, but he's still getting hit and then still goes down, right? The strategy that he had the whole fight didn't work, right? Is he looking to counter? Nope, no counter. Is he grabbing? Is he holding? No, he's getting punched. This is what's supposed to happen in a fight. This is what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen if you're not good at boxing. And it's not supposed to take 6 rounds of fouling and grabbing and wrestling and holding. If you let the wrestling continue and you let the guys grab and hold and the referee doesn't break, the guy who has to use more effort to control the guy wrestling is going to get tired. And the guy who's more comfortable and more okay is going to be okay. The guy who's better is going to be okay. But you have to let it play out. You can't have the cheating, you can't have the fouling. But a fighter having to circle and step around and run, there's an inevitability in that. One of the guys is going to be worse than the other. Teofimo Lopez or Shakur Stevenson, one of those guys is going to be faster. Right? When they're both sitting on the line and they both explode, one of them is going to be more consistently accurate. And that means that the other guy is not going to be able to use that exact strategy to win the fight, because it's a losing strategy to go head to head with someone who is at advantage against you. You have to learn how to actually fight, because the other modifier for that is also just speed. If the guy's faster on the line, even if he's not as tall or as long, he's got a better stepping jab, right? It'll have the same exact effect. The other guy will win the challenges more often than you because he has more of the speed, more of the reach, or the height. And then you'll have to have real boxing skills to compete. You'll have to. So we're going to see, right? Teofimo Lopez is a massive underdog in this fight, which is so crazy because that guy's so good. You know, he's so explosive, you know? Have a guy like that to be such a huge underdog, you know it has to be a good fight, right? He's the underdog. He's going to take it all personally. He's going to go in and go for broke. We'll see what kind of pressure he puts on Shakur Stevenson if he can force him to jump rope in front of him long enough and keep the pressure on him and not let him get planted enough to make him tire out and sit on the line and do stuff like this, where he can't move and he can't go beat for beat with you because while you were walking and plodding around, he was jumping and penduluming around using way more energy to move every step that you moved. In the economy of motion, it just doesn't work. There's no way to make sure that at the end of it, you come out ahead. Now, I'm also going to be doing a little film study on this fight, another fight to talk about this idea, about how to manage your game plan and fight. One of my, I'll say two of my favorite fighters. These fighters both have a place in my all-time theory. Okay? I'm not going to tell you who they are. They're very obscure. Yeah. One of these guys, I never wanted to fight this guy or any guy like them. Right? All right. Fuck you guys.